Hey everyone, I'm coming to you from I'm very hot and sweaty in the middle of a public park because I had an unexpected appointment and I ran a bit longer than I thought I would tonight. So I decided I'd pull off to the side of the road, but I don't know how long I'm going to be able to sit here. It is so sweltering hot and mosquitoes are biting me and whatever. Anyway, same old story. I don't mean to bore you with this. Tonight, I'd love to talk to you about habits because I've kind of had them thrown in my face today. And I think I realized that I've set myself some habits which were good initially. You know, they were set in order for me to maintain a bit of discipline and to do things in a certain way and to respect my boundaries and to learn how to respect what I say I want to do. And so I created these habits around my work. And today I was confronted with it because somebody suggested that I do it a little bit differently. And I thought, no, I've always done it this way, and this is my rule, and therefore, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, okay, but if this is a situation where it would be better for you, it would be better for me, it would be better for the whole situation right now, what's holding you back from doing it this different way? I understand that you've always done it one way. And he's not wrong, you know, and in fact, then I thought, well, that's exactly what I've been saying, is that we need to be open to change and not get too stuck in our ways. And I realized that sometimes I've created a habit, like back in the beginning when I started to work, and I would say, okay, these are my work hours, and I am not going to be available outside of those because I knew that I would get sucked into working all the time or to answering people at all hours of the night and to be constantly available, and then it would lead to burnout which I'm always on the verge of for some reason. But sometimes we set up habits in order to create disciplines which are not yet in place, but somewhere down the road they become automatic. And so we don't necessarily need those habits in place anymore. I would love to hear your take on this. I was listening to Peter Sage today too about a training on learning to learn, and I thought he explained some things really well, and there was this in the middle of it as well. It wasn't really about habits, but it was that at a certain point, once you get so good at something, you have unconscious competence. So basically, he had the different levels. The levels were unconscious incompetence. So if you're going to learn something, and in my case, I was thinking about driving. So if you're going to learn how to drive, well, if you've never driven or never, you're like 5 years old, you never thought about how the car gets from one place to another. But then at a certain point, you get to a certain age and you realize that you too could be driving this car. And so you look into it. You start to, you find out what it means to drive, what you need to drive, what you need to get a license, and you start to have conscious incompetence because you still don't know how to drive quite yet, but you're aware of what you don't know, whereas before you were not aware of what you didn't know. So then what was interesting about this level, being aware of what you don't know, he said that many people in new businesses, or you go to create something, this is the level in where they give up. Because when you realize you don't know something, it gets harder to get over that level. It gets harder to put into practice what you're starting to learn and actually make it become competence. So the third level is I think it's a conscious competence. You're putting it into practice. Maybe not the best yet, and then there's another level once you get so good at it, and that's unconscious competence. And when you're in unconscious competence, it's like people who've been driving for years. You're not thinking about every single move. You're just not, it's just flowing. There's something in that flow, and so therefore you don't need to say, every time I turn to the left, I have to turn my head, and all those little steps can actually fall away. And I think the same thing is with habits. Once you have a certain rhythm, once you know what you're doing, once you feel competent in the area of what you're doing it in, some habits you may not need anymore. Some habits may be good to keep, but some of them, maybe you've outgrown them, and it's time to leave them for something better. So I would love to hear what your comments are on this, and what kind of habits do you have? What are you carrying with you today perhaps you are no longer serving you, or perhaps could make way for something different or a different way of doing things. I don't know, changing your hours or changing the people you're willing to work with. Love to hear from you, and getting eaten by mosquitoes. So I will